Hey, hi everyone. I'm Ronak Doshi, and we are in the final video of our four-part series with Kriti Gupta and Kriti Seth talking about the sustainability opportunity in BFSI. Hey, Kriti.
Hey, Ronak.
So, Kriti, you and I started this series, and we spoke about the need for BFSI firms to become purpose-driven organizations, the need for data, and then Kriti Seth came in and spoke about the supplier landscape, shared, I think, some fantastic insights about the offerings that they have, and the landscape which is really maturing very fast. I thought I'll come back to you as we end this series and talk about what are the challenges that BFSI firms are facing, especially around data and integration, and also what are your recommendations in terms of best practices as they go along?
Sure. Happy to answer that, Ronak. I think what we have already touched upon how data is the biggest roadblock and the biggest challenge as BFSI firms embark on their ESG journey. And data availability via the data provider landscape alone is not sufficient in helping combat some of these challenges, because data is available, but what next? What about the transparency in the methodologies? How are these ESG ratings actually calculated? Is the data undergoing a rigorous quality check process? How is data quality being maintained? And finally, the biggest question of all, how do BFSI firms actually get access to this data? I think all of these are the top line questions that the BFSI executives are asking in the industry today. And a lot of these challenges are being solved for by this vibrant landscape that we just touched upon in our last video. So primarily what we are seeing happening in the market is, I think, biggest thing from a data availability and a data transparency perspective is expanding coverage to different data sources, looking out for more unstructured data to be included into calculation of these ESG ratings. Secondly, talk about data quality. How am I actually ensuring robust data quality checks? Finally, about the methodology, how am I actually arriving at that the final number or the final figure that gets utilized by these BFSI firms? And that is where we are seeing the transparency issue coming up at the forefront. All of these data providers are investing in making their methodology process completely transparent. They are issuing the process documents wherein anyone and everyone can go through and see how these ratings are actually calculated. And to combat the biggest issue of all, like I just said, how this data is actually delivered to BFSI firms. So traditionally, if we look at the technology estate, a lot of firms are still struggling with legacy infrastructure, with huge technology debt, and to ensure this access and timely access to this data, we are seeing data providers investing in SaaS model of some of these data delivery, the data reports, also looking to leverage APIs for seamless integration. So I think that those are some of the latest investments we are also seeing data and technology providers make in this space. And finally, they are also partnering with a lot of academic institutions to publish cutting edge thought leadership as they gain more credibility in this ecosystem. So my 2 cents here would be how the data is actually collected, how it is processed, and how it is actually delivered to the BFSI firms. And that is where data and technology providers are actually focusing a lot of their efforts.
No, that's helpful, Kriti. And again, as we look at this beyond just the data problem, a lot of our clients are also telling us the significant changes they need to make in their processes to embed these data into their workflows and drive this integration so that as we started our video series, right, the next best action should be sustainability principles driven to become that purpose driven organization. Taking that next best action means infusing this data into their workflows and every processes that they run. And I think that's a huge change management activity that firms are kind of undergoing. And it requires significant culture change, people change, and training a lot of people, not just on how to use this data, but on the basics of sustainability principles. And I think it's going to be a journey. It's going to be it will take time, it will take investments, but I think we are headed in the right direction in terms of the maturity that we are seeing across the board, and just in terms of the questions that we are getting as a firm on this area. So, to everyone, right, who's kind of watching the video, feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions. We'll be happy to answer, and let's keep the dialogue going. Thanks, Kriti.
Thanks, Ronak.